Today was a big day. Fortnite finally announced what Siphon we're going to get for the rest of the year. They made huge changes to how they're going to handle cheaters and who can actually play tournaments, which unfortunately has upset a lot of people. Forecast got removed for competitive, storm sickness has been fixed, and we got our first chance to look at how competitive is looking. So I want to talk about everything I've learned. Should you be running the Void Mask or the Typhoon Blades? What's the best loadout? Which pros are dropping where? Is Peterbot uncontested again? There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. We had a lot today, but let's start off with the big one. Siphon is finally back in competitive. They picked 75 health over time, so it's 75 health over 5 seconds. Now, if you guys watch my streams or my videos, you know I'm happy with this choice. I could be happier, but I could be a lot more sad as well. My top 3 choices for Siphon out of the different trials we got was 50 effective health, the regular Siphon, 40 effective health, or 75 health over time. This was my third or even maybe second favorite. Now, hear me out. I know it's a little bit frustrating. You don't get any shield if you fight on spawn. It doesn't help you as much in the mid-game fights, but it is so good for the end-game clutches. It makes for some of the best end-game moments, and that's truly what I want Siphon for. Yes, I would have rather just regular effective 50 health Siphon. I think most people would have. It's nice and simple. It's very clean. It helps you in all aspects of the game, but this one is still really, really good. Like I said, during the week when we had this trial, it was some of the best clutches in endgame I've ever seen, and not just sitting in zone playing medkits, getting a kill, dropping back, getting mats, going in a zone, coming back in, getting another kill, refreshing, rotate. It was so cool because it heals your white health, but it heals it over time. So even if you damage someone, if you take someone down and you're on like 80 health and it starts healing you up, you can drop back into Storm and then get back in. I've left some really, really cool plays. Now, the other thing about Siphon that has people not too happy is the fact that it's not in ranked. It is only going to be in competitive. So it's in scrims, luckily, because scrims are running on tournament playlists, but it is not in pubs. It is not in ranked. Little bit sad to see. If it was effective health and it wasn't in ranked, people would be really, really annoyed. I feel like 75 health over time would still be good in ranked. It wouldn't have as big of an impact, but it's still kind of weird that we're going back to having ranked not match competitive. It scares me a little bit, but going forward, Epic's going to start making more and more changes that makes pubs and ranked the same and competitive different, which historically everyone's hated. The same as Nitro season. All everyone wanted to do was have Epic Games make pubs and ranked different, so ranked was like competitive, so you could actually use it to practice for competitive. But either way, Siphon's been announced. I'm happy with the choice. There's a lot of people who aren't happy, but overall, it's looking good. Next up, we have a couple of things being removed from competitive and added to competitive. So we have forecast towers being removed. How do I feel about this? Big W. I am very happy the forecast towers are removed from competitive. Again, they're going to be in ranked, but not competitive, which is a little bit weird because who really cares about using forecast in ranked? But why do I want them out of tournaments and why am I happy with this decision? I think forecast as much, if not more than mythics and medallions, which is going to lead to another storyline of a whole year of teams getting uncontested forecast and having a massive advantage because of this. I know what you guys are going to say. A lot of you guys love this. You love the storyline of like Peterbot getting the crazy loot so he can dominate and win 4 FNCSs in a row. We've had that storyline now. It's gotten a little bit boring for me. I love when there's a really good team fighting another really good team because they're both trying to lock down the best drop spot. This used to happen way back in the days at Stark Industries or at Doom's Domain. The really good drops got contested by really good teams. But so far over the last year, not just with Peterbot, but with other teams on other regions, it seems like a lot of people are no longer happy to contest the best team, giving them just the best loot, and they have such a ridiculous advantage, it kind of makes it feel like everyone's playing for second place. And Forecast does that to a very high level. Also, I had some concerns about competitive integrity around forecast, especially in solos. We have solos where first place is going to walk away with $8,000 on certain regions, and having forecast where there would be a lot of friends potentially in a call together, maybe sharing information that some of them have gathered. You know where I'm going with this. And yes, it sucks that I have to look forward to changes because I think that people might cheat, but it's just the reality of online tournaments. And I will talk about what Fortnite's doing about cheaters in a second, but I am happy with forecast being removed. Now, another thing that got added that I'm very happy about is storm sickness. Storm sickness was turned off at the start of this season. You've probably seen Cray. If you haven't, he's a guy who loves doing his heal offs, and he's been winning ranked match after ranked match, just playing heal off in storm for the entire game and never dying. A lot of us were confused because heal off is probably the worst it's ever been. Why would you take out storm sickness? Turns out it was a bug. Storm sickness was on the whole time, but courtesy to the people at Assyrian, they checked the game files and there appeared to be a bug with how the damage was being counted up, so it didn't know when for it to activate, but it was still in the game. They fixed it. it now activates. Storm Sickness is back. Hopefully that helps with the heal offs. We are probably still gonna have heal offs this season. Med kits are still the same way they've always been, so you can use them out heal 10 ticks. We have these new, like, you know, the blue spirits. We now have the sprites that heal you. That probably won't help either. One thing that might help with the heal offs is just how absurdly broken these assault rifles and SMGs are. If you've played any Fortnite, you are getting absolutely beamed. The same thing goes for pros in tournaments, even more so. When you've got 3 of the best players in the world with these assault rifles aimed at you, you take a lot of damage. Again, I'll talk later in the video about the meta and what I picked up today from watching all the pro scrims. The last thing I want to talk about before that is the big step Fortnite just took towards getting rid of cheaters in tournaments and why it has upset some people. So we now have a new requirement to play in cash money tournaments. If you want to play in a tournament for money, you have to have played in at least 14 events in the last 180 days. So you have to have competed in at least 14 tournaments in the last half a year if you want to play a tournament for money. Now, I saw quite a few people complaining about this, which confused me. I get it. It might be frustrating if you've taken a really long break and you've just come back to competitive and you want to play tournaments, but you can still play the ranked cups without this requirement. That's how you can play the tournaments to then be able to play for money. You can also play the OG cups, which is starting in like a week, and each ranked cup on a different region counts towards the 14 events. So if you just queue up the ranked cups on like 2 or 3 regions, a few days this week and like once next week, you'll be able to play in the tournaments for money. It's not that much to ask. And I know it's frustrating. I'm sure Fortnite doesn't want to do this, but it will do a massive job of curbing the cheaters in Fortnite right now. It means that if a cheater gets banned and they have to just go and buy a new account, which is what a lot of them do, they now have to get another account that's played at least 14 events, which is going to be way harder to do. And then Fortnite bans that one, and on. It's way harder for cheaters to get away with cheating now, because once they get banned, they can't just jump on a fresh account. So as frustrating as this might be for players coming back to the game after a while, all it takes is a week of playing ranked tournaments, which honestly, if you've taken that long of a break, it's probably good to play some of the lesser tournaments and then jump into the big tournaments anyway. I think it's overall a great decision. On top of the changes to now ban people who are playing with cheaters for 28 days, making it so that tournaments have an entire day break between opens and finals to ban cheaters, and then now making it harder for cheaters to get on a new account, Fortnite is basically attacking the cheater problem from every angle, and it has me so excited. We were talking a lot last season, or last chapter I should say, about how cheaters could potentially kill this game competitively. Fortnite's kicked off chapter 6 with multiple efforts to make it so much harder for cheaters. This is a big W. I know it's frustrating. If you're one of the players who can't play events right now, give it a couple weeks, you'll be in playing tournaments, hopefully not dying to cheaters every game, and you'll enjoy it a lot more. Now, let's talk about how this season's actually looking for competitive. I did my breakdown of how the new season worked, just talking about after the first season, but I've just watched 9 pro competitive games today, and I've learned a whole bunch from it. So, firstly, mobility-wise, is the Void Mask as broken as we all thought it was going to be? Kind of, but actually not really. Most pros are choosing to run the new Typhoon Blade katanas for their movement. If you guys haven't seen it, there's crazy tricks that you can do where you just edit a wall, sprint and jump into it, and you go absolutely flying. Combine this with the other movement aspects of the Typhoon Blade, and it's just so much better than the Void Master. You can actually stay together as a trio. It sends you further, it has more uses, and then once you get to endgame, you can still use it just to run faster and then box up. The Void Mask, while still being really good, it's very, very hard to stick together as a trio, especially in endgame when you're doing it. And a lot of the aspects of using the mask when you're versing better players is a lot worse. It's a lot riskier. If you shoot the orb, for example, and you can't see where you're going to land, quite often you can just land in someone's box. Or what a lot of pros are doing is once they're front side, they'll see where the rift is where you're going to land. They'll pre-fire and aim on it. As soon as you drop in, they just absolutely beam you. So not only is it really difficult to stick together as a trio, it's also just really, really risky to use, where the Typhoon Blade is so much easier and so much safer. It's also easier for most of the POIs to get the 3 Typhoon Blades than it is the 3 Void Masks. Now in solos competitive, I feel like the Void Mask will still be the strongest. The Blade will be really, really good as well, but when you don't have to stick to your teammates, and when even if you use the mask and all of a sudden there's someone watching you, only having 1 player look at you compared to 3, a lot of those risks and negatives aren't as bad in solos. So both items are looking very, very strong, and a lot of people are actually asking for the Typhoon Blade to be nerfed. There was a bug you could do with it where you could actually fly across the map basically infinitely, and it looks like Fortnite has patched that, but they've left in the regular sprint jump movement. So I don't know whether they're going to nerf this. It does look like it's functioning probably a little bit differently to how Fortnite wanted. I don't think they wanted players flying across the map at 200 miles an hour and taking no fall damage, but there's a good chance they leave them in the way they are. So if you aren't good with the Typhoon Blade, I would start practicing it for trios, because almost every pro is running this, not the Void Mask. Next up, I already talked about a little bit earlier in the video, the assault rifles. As you can expect, when you have hit scan and you have scoped weapons with no bloom, no recoil basically, you are getting fried. The amount of people who are just getting absolutely beamed, especially now that it's in trios, you have 3 of the best players in the world all aiming down their sights at you. It is a nightmare. People are getting deleted. Luckily, there are quite a lot of meds around the map right now, with fishing almost always giving you shield fish instead of floppers. Means that you can keep your shields topped up a little bit if you're getting tagged around the map. Again, you have the water sprites around the map that will heal you. You get 3 of them. They heal your entire trio. This helps a lot. But right now, there are a lot of people asking for the assault rifles to be nerfed. I've even seen people like Nick30 talking about it just in public matches. They're getting absolutely fried. So you can only imagine how crazy it is in trios. And I mean, a lot of us thought this was gonna be an issue. I quite like hit scan in the game. There's pros and cons to it. I didn't mind which way we went, hit scan versus projectiles, but having hit scans and scopes has always been a problem. The red eye was the first one, and now the twin mag, but both those seasons had really strong meds. The twin mag had the legendary slurps. Legendary slurps, it didn't matter how strong weapons were, you could always keep yourself topped up, and they were really easy to get because of the caches. Now the meds aren't as good, but there's also no mid-map objective. A lot of the times you could take a bunch of damage, you wouldn't have any meds, you push a cache, you make a play, you get the slurps, and now you're back to stacked. There's not really any good mid-game objectives right now in this season. The one being the island, but the island is one of the hardest things we've ever had. You go up on the island and you're fighting an Elden Ring boss that's teleporting through portals, slashing you with a 50-foot katana. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare even in pubs, trying to do it in competitive with a bunch of pros watching you, other people pushing you, messing up your rotates, getting storm surge. It's very hard. So hopefully the assault rifles get tweaked a little bit. I don't really want to see them nerfed any more than just maybe having some recoil or a bit of bloom added to them. I know it's hard to add bloom with a scoped weapon, but there probably needs to be something done with them, and I think a lot of people are expecting it. I'm still really enjoying this season. I'm still really enjoying watching it, but that's probably my biggest negative right now for the season, at least competitively. Now, we also got a chance to look at the drop spots. What are the best drops? Where are the pros going? And I know what you want to know. Where is Peterbot going? I watched the NA scrims. I didn't get a chance to watch EU, but I'm excited during the Eval Cup that's today to see where the EU pros are going as well. I'll be live all day for that. Twitch.tv/Aussie Antics, watching EU and NA Eval Cups if you want to swing by. But Peterbot has claimed his drop spot, and it's brutal boxcars, which doesn't sound that crazy. I know we're used to seeing Peterbot always drop at the best POI. Like I said, because there's no crazy medallion this season, because there's no forecasts anymore, there's not really one POI that's the best POI, at least from what we can see yet. But Peterbot is locking down a mythic. He has locked down the mythic assault rifle. It spawns on the train, and the train starts every game at brutal boxcar. So he's able to lock that down, get all of the train loot. He then also has the gigantic mountain right next to it, so they can get their surge and their mid map. So it makes a lot of sense. It is a very strong drop spot. It was even stronger when the forecast towers were in and Peterbot was claiming one of them. The forecast tower has been removed, and they're still going there, at least for now. They might change their mind. I think everyone's still trying to figure out this season, but for now, Peterbot's going there, and it's working really well. They dropped 20 kills in a single game with the win today in pro scrims, so that trio is looking as dominant as ever. If they have another crazy game, I might even VOD review one of their games for my main channel to break down how they're playing the season. We have Booga, Threats, and Reed uncontested at the Seaport City. Originally, we were going to potentially have Booga going up against Peterbot again, but Peterbot decided to leave the Seaport City. He's going brutal boxcars. We have Clix's team locking down Warriors Watch. They are currently contested. They're being contested by Quanti, Edgy, and Yapko. Yapko is going back to NA to play with Quanti. So Clix is contested. There are a few other teams going there as well. Warriors Watch is really solid. It's like a Kenjutsu large Japanese building, bunch of loot, really good sidelines, right next to a massive tower for surge angles, and they also have guaranteed Typhoon Blades there so they can get the triple katana, which I've talked about being very solid. Some of the other notable contests, we have Bucky going up against Day's team. If you guys watch the scrims, it was quite funny. Bucky is actually extremely bravely trying to lock down Canyon Crossing, which is the POI next to the mountain, and then also trying to take the mountain, which has the gigantic cavern beneath it with all the loot. It's a very interesting situation where I'm not sure how Bucky's going to pull this off. He has said that he is going there every single game. If anyone drops at either of these positions, he's going to land on them. He's going to fight them 12 out of 12. He's sick of playing from bad drops. He wants to claim technically 2 POIs worth of loot. So we'll see how that one plays out. As far as some of the other big names, a lot of teams are still trying to look to lock down their spots. We have Pollo, Rapid, and Bolt going Demon's Dojo. Fantastic job on the edge of the map, but it does have guaranteed Typhoon Blades. I did actually see that Pollo's team was trying to run the Void Mask. They were actually using the mask more than any other team. Demon's Dojo makes sense because they are very far of the map, but I'm not really sure whether that worked for them. They didn't do the best today in scrims, not to their usual standard, and towards the end, they did start running the Typhoon Blaze rather than the Void Mask. I'm interested to see whether that continues. The other big team I want to talk about, one of the most consistent trios of last season, we have the Omzo, Batman, Booger, and Mason. They are going Lost Lake. Again, quite central map. They are also trying to claim the gas station. I don't want to call it a gas station. It's the bird kind of like fast food restaurant thing. Either way, it's like the gas stations, and a lot of POIs are trying to claim it because they want the medal. So Yomzo's team's getting Lost Lake, and they're getting the bird fast food joint just to the southeast of that. So there's going to be some other big teams claiming their drops as well, but for now, after scrims, those are the main teams that have locked down a drop spot that I thought was worth talking about. I wanted to put in this video because I keep getting asked about this. Aussie, which big pros are going to NA West? What's going on with NA West? Pretty much the main pro trio we have that's actually moving back, or there's 2. We have Dukes, Epic Whale, and Scissor are going to go compete on NA West, and then we have Barker and Paz also going back to compete on NA West, and the other notable name that I've seen is Snacky. So not too many pros are going back. There are only 3 LAN spots up for grabs the whole chapter. You have to win NA West to go to LAN, and that is very, very tough. Outside of having to win to qualify for LAN though, the prize money is really solid. The Cash Cup prize pools is honestly more than what I was expecting for how many players I think will play on NA West. One of the main things I heard people talk about for the NA West prize pool being higher is, oh, a bunch of central players are going to play it, so it makes sense. And that did make sense until you look at the start times of tournaments, and for whatever reason, NA Central and NA West are actually overlapping each other, which is really unfortunate for both NA West and NA Central players. One of the best things about the multiple NA regions was the cross-region tournaments for Cash Cups. You guys might argue that's not a good thing. People should only be able to play one region. They should be locked in on that region, but I've always enjoyed it for the content. I've always thought if someone can beat someone else on considerably higher ping, they deserve the money. But for whatever reason, Fortnite has decided to make both tournaments overlap by a whole hour. So it's going to be really, really hard for Central players to do well on West and vice versa. So for the NA players who thought they were going to try their hands at both, they kind of really have to pick one main region, at least for the Cash Cups. You can maybe qualify if you start late. I'm sure some of them will, but it's going to be a little bit harder than what it used to when NA East and NA West would finish and start at the exact same time.